Well, it would seem as though EA Sports finally has some competition when it comes to worst sequel releases. I'm talking about Blood Bowl 3, which recently made quite a few headlines because of its atrocious state at launch. And it's a shame because I'm someone who enjoyed Blood Bowl 2 quite a bit, and I know plenty of people were looking forward to Blood Bowl 3 and seeing how they could evolve the graphics, the gameplay, and just really modernize Blood Bowl. But this is what we got instead: a Metascore of 59 from 14 critic reviews and a user score of 1.8. It gets much worse if you look at Steam reviews, where you'll find a score of mostly negative, with only 30% of the user base or the reviewers base giving it a thumbs up. And there are plenty of reasons behind why this has happened. Now, for those who don't know what Blood Bowl is, it is a turn-based, tactical, violent football game set in the Warhammer universe. It's almost like Mario Strikers, except bloodier. Like, your players can literally die violently, and instead of real time, it is tactics and a lot of dice rolling and luck involved. It's both extremely fun and also makes you want to tear your hair out, because those dice can often go against your favor. It's part of the charm. And Blood Bowl 3 comes 8 years after 2. And unfortunately, what was supposed to be a glorious new entry in what is a relatively beloved IP is unfortunately described as basically Blood Bowl 2, but worse. Just less complete, rife with issues, just a complete downgrade across the board. The only compliment you can give to 3 is that they added some new teams, and also it has somewhat higher graphics fidelity, but even then, people generally seem to prefer the overall style and look of 2, which is just described as being more colorful, having more impactful visual effects, and definitely having a better user interface. The UI in Blood Bowl 3 is being heavily criticized, not to mention the myriad recycled animations and assets. Also, when it comes to new teams and player unit types, they recycled units from other teams and mixed them up and then call that new teams or new player types in a team. So even quote-unquote new stuff when it comes to teams and players feels rehashed on some level. And then there are the myriad bugs, glitches, and technical issues that plagues Blood Bowl 3, like how end-of-match scores tend to show the wrong scores, how post-match experience points may not be awarded because of some bug, random name generators for teams and players when playing against AI and whatnot. The names are botched, lots of repeating names and names not being properly capitalized and stuff. It's even the little stuff that they just got woefully wrong. And then on larger scale, campaigns in offline mode just aren't unlocking and progressing properly, so you'll play through 2 out of 6 campaigns and then the other 4 just remain locked for some reason. Some people thought maybe they just didn't include that content here. Others are saying, no, this is probably a bug because in online you can play through those campaigns. And then there are tons of server issues that really mar the entire online experience. So yeah, the bottom line is basically just get Blood Bowl 2 Legendary Edition, which is a far more complete package, far more polished, and it's just better across the board. And I say this is competing with EA Sports because, well, people are well aware of the annualized release schedule of EA Sports titles like FIFA, Madden, you name it, and the severe cost that it comes to quality of sequel releases, where it very much just feels like every year we're getting a rehashed, broken version of what came before. Except with FIFA, at the very least, it is an annual release where developers really don't have much time. They only have a year to make a new entry. Blood Bowl 3 comes in 8 years after 2. They had all this time. And guess what? This game was delayed by 2 years before it came out on February 23rd, 2023. They had plenty of time to make this game, to flesh it out, and to make a proper sequel. And this is what we get after 8 years of waiting and even after a delay. And on top of all that, the microtransactions are fairly egregious. They implemented single-use cosmetics. So the cosmetics that you buy, you can only use it one time for a single player, not for a whole team. It is literally just for a single player unit, and because it's consumable, once it's used up, it's gone, which means you gotta keep buying the cosmetic microtransactions. You don't get to unlock them permanently after purchase. Scrolling down Blood Bowl 3 Steam page, you'll find additional content that you can purchase in the form of cosmetics like Dice and Team Logos pack, Black Orcs customizations, and Imperial Nobility customizations. And going to their listings, you'll find, for example, in the Black Orcs customizations page, a mostly negative review score, with only 8% having given this a thumbs up out of 12 user reviews, because as you can see in the user reviews, all items here are single-use items. Don't waste your money. Only for one player and not the entire team. A disgusting money grab. Completely broken. I attached the gear to my players and the gear had vanished when I relaunched the game. So not only is the business model incredibly shady here with the way they are overpricing these single-use cosmetics, but also they might not even work as intended. And these are all things that were not properly communicated to players, which is why you've got a review here that was confused about all this and how this person didn't understand it is a set of items for one individual orc unit on your team plus one individual troll unit on your team plus one individual goblin unit on your team. And the same goes for the Imperial Nobility customization, which only gives you one use for each of these cosmetics here. And scrolling down here, you'll find similar reviews. In this page, you've got a negative review score of just 0%. Not a single person gave it a thumbs up. You've got people saying these items are single use. It's not enough to even equip a full team. Only 3 players of your team. I got it as part of the Brutal Edition, but it's not worth it at all. The Brutal Edition essentially being Blood Bowl's version of a Gold or Deluxe Edition, a more expensive version that's supposed to come with additional content, but that additional content just isn't worth it. And then making matters worse is that players have discovered, data mining the files of Blood Bowl 3, that there's all this content, new teams and whatnot, that's already built into the game, but isn't accessible because the development team is planning to drip feed that to you via the Battle Pass. This is just about the worst case scenario when it comes to a game launch, unfinished, unpolished, and rife with egregious monetization. Now let's check out reviews you can find on Blood Bowl 3's official Steam page. You've got people saying things like, I have nearly 1,000 hours in Blood Bowl 2. This game has less content, less customization, more bugs, less stability, worse AI, shamelessly reuse assets, and the single most vile microtransaction service ever put into a game. At this point, and particularly with Nakon's track record, I believe that the only reason we had a 2-year delay was so that assets and functionality could be removed from the game to increase monetization of what would have otherwise been included. This game is unsalvageable. The studio might have worked hard, and I'd wager they're not bad people, but this game is an abomination and years from being complete. Unfortunately, it may well be the death knell for the game studio, but it's the publisher who should burn for this one. I would not be surprised if it was publisher mandates that utterly butchered Blood Bowl 3. And then a more detailed review is this one right here. The pros are Blood Bowl 2020 rules and better graphics and or fidelity with GW models. But then look at this extensive list of cons. Server latency and general disconnects. Menus often hang as the game tries to connect to the server. The game literally has to talk to servers as you're navigating menus. Just a really bizarre implementation. Countless bugs with skills being enhancements you can give to individual player units. Those are just not working properly, and they're a major part of the strategic nature of this tactical game experience. Countless bugs with general interactions, i.e. pass interference, touchdowns not registering, etc. So the basic fundamental elements of the game aren't working properly either. Random crashes and instability / freezing. I mean, the game doesn't just sound like it's in a rough state, it sounds like it's just downright broken. Games can end without registering the results, meaning you wasted an hour of your life. Awards aren't doled out properly. Scores aren't kept properly. Piss poor AI in single player, worse than Blood Bowl 2. Yeah, Blood Bowl 2, while people love that game, the AI was not one of its highlights. If it's worse than Blood Bowl 2, I can tell you it's pretty damn bad. Another con from single player, no limit on positional players for Black Orc AI teams. Then here we have the campaign being locked after first competition. I previously mentioned how campaigns aren't being unlocked and progressing properly. Hilariously overpriced, an absurd microtransaction system, pure unfettered greed, really no other way to describe it. DLC packs are laughable, again hilariously overpriced scam DLC, no basic customization options. That's the stuff that I showed you guys on the Steam pages. Keep in mind that microtransactions are layered on top of that as well. There is an in-game shop and all these things. There's actually this other review that details the microtransactions, highlighting how egregious it is that they locked away player gear customization behind an atrocious paywall. And this dude did the math and found out that to fully gear up a team of 11 players, that would be a whopping 74.25 Australian dollars, which converts to roughly 50 US dollars. That's on top of highlighting things like scatterbrained UI, bugs, glitches, and completely game-breaking shenanigans. No replays, just the basic function of a sports game. Copy-pasted commentators' lines from Blood Bowl 2 that still somehow managed to have subtitle discrepancies. Nothing about this release makes you feel like any sort of care or attention to detail was put into it. But yeah, going back to the other review, no basic customization options, no visible mutations on players. 90% of the voice commentary is recycled from Blood Bowl 2. Music is recycled from Blood Bowl 2. Missing critical functionality, i.e. game reconnection, stats, history, pause. They don't freaking have pause. These are bare minimum functional requirements for a Blood Bowl game, which can take anywhere from 40 to 50 minutes to play. Absolutely inexcusable is right. Microtransaction shop is available, even though the mechanics for earning a warp stone, I believe that's the premium currency, will not be revealed for another 3 months, meaning you can only buy warp stone now with real money. Make no mistake, it was a calculated move to release the cash shop before the Blood Pass. This is not a video game with a microtransaction store. It is a microtransaction store with a video game on the side, and even that is a generous description. I mean, the video game part itself doesn't even really frickin' work with how many technical issues they are, with how many mechanics are broken, and just across the board, ridiculous, missing features, bare minimums that are completely absent. Here's another user review from somebody who played 2,000 hours of Blood Bowl 2. So there's an expert who can tell you what's missing, what's broken, and what's worse in Blood Bowl 3 compared to Blood Bowl 2. It's this guy. And this dude basically wrote an essay saying Blood Bowl 3 is simply the worst launch of a game I've ever experienced. And he brings up a lot of similar issues alongside some new ones others haven't talked about. Some skills aren't implemented after a 2-year delay from the original intended release date. Many skills cause the game to glitch out, crash, or lock up. It genuinely feels like things have simply not been tested to even a basic level. What makes all of this even more egregious is the fact that plenty of feedback was provided during Blood Bowl 3's betas. It reads right here that there were many problems that were highlighted in the betas. The community members put a lot of time and effort into collecting this information. Only major difference between the beta access and now is that some more teams have been added and all of the development effort has gone into microtransactions store for cosmetics. It feels like all the previous community feedback went straight into the bin. Microtransactions are extremely predatory and scummy. People who bought the more expensive editions especially feel duped. Many people have bought the so-called deluxe, Black Orc, or Imperial Nobility editions of the game, which promise extra customizations for those teams. It turns out that it's enough pieces of customization, 6, to add to one player across your entire account. And then there are the bugs surrounding the cosmetics that you spend extra money for. They promise that once the player's killed or removed, you'll get it back, the player that you spent your cosmetic on. But surprise, there's currently a bug where deleting a team with paid cosmetics will completely lose your access to those cosmetics. There are visual design issues that make it hard to tell what's going on. Basic green grass pitch is fairly legible, but practically every other pitch in the game makes it extremely hard to make out. Just glaring design failures, extremely difficult to tell where the sideline is, for example, among other things detailed in this paragraph. Then down here, if you do manage to complete a 2-hour match with no crashes or game-breaking bugs, the results of matches are often lost into the void and don't count the experience towards your team. Again, game results aren't properly tracked and awards aren't properly doled out. And then basic features like being able to see your previous match results and statistics haven't been implemented yet. Then there are the criticisms surrounding developer communication and the frickin' roadmap. Communication from the developers has been close to non-existent. There's a lot of anger in the community. The roadmap for the future is just ridiculous. Just lays out how every 3 months we'll introduce a new season pass, team, and cosmetics to purchase, and also extremely basic features we expected from Blood Bowl 2, such as resuming the game after disconnection, coming in 6 months' time. League management tools are described to be non-functional, impossible to run a league of any sort or size, no mechanism to administrate a match or roll around Roblin, cannot invite someone to a league unless they're in your friend list. Won't see any scheduled leagues for a while, which is where most of the online Blood Bowl community plays. The marquee feature of Blood Bowl Online is completely just busted or just so feature incomplete that It makes it untenable. There isn't even a mention on the roadmap about all of this. Perhaps Cyanide thought they'd be able to force everyone to use their official ladder, but that doesn't start for another 3 months, so people just have nothing to work with when it comes to this marquee online aspect of Blood Bowl. This review also brings up UI menus in-game all communicate with the server on every screen, so navigating the menus just takes forever. And then the layout of the UI itself is pretty poor and nonsensical, can take literally minutes to do anything in depth. Servers have simply died under load numerous times. I'm writing this review a couple of hours before launch, and the servers have been offline for the past hour. And then when it comes to single player, AI is awful, worse than Blood Bowl 1 and 2. AI just times out making decisions, leaving you sitting there waiting for several minutes. So single player just seems untenable and insufferable. Everything is online, so you still suffer with all the connectivity problems. Even in single player, there is an offline mode, but it is completely and entirely separate from your main account, so no sharing of progress or anything of the sort between the two. And last but not least, the Eternal League single player mode from previous game is missing. So yeah, suffice to say that Blood Bowl 3 in no way, shape, or form earns the 3 in its title. And there are quite a few reviews that go this much in depth. Here's one more that I'll very briefly go over that discusses a lack of creativity in Blood Bowl 3. Even had an extra 2 years to make this game, and still this is how it came out. Shockingly bare bones, no pause system, no replay mode, no possibility to simply reconnect to a disconnected game, etc. No basic features, not even a simple glossary. The Blood Pass, advertised as something Brutal Edition buyers could purchase with the included 1,000 warp stones, is not available at launch. We still have to wait 3 more months for the Blood Pass to come into effect. The glitches, the bugs, the appalling main menu and UI, microtransactions, the whole 9 yards. Everyone who's tried this game out are all saying the same thing. This really freaking sucks and gives EA Sports a run for its money. So yeah, let this be Exhibit A for how not to do a sequel and how not to release a video game, period. This is literally all of the worst practices we have seen from some of the greediest game publishers, just kind of rolled into one ugly package. And yeah, you're just better off with Blood Bowl 2. This seems like not only one of the worst sequel launches of all time, but just one of the worst game launches of all time, period, from a prominent enough developer that should know better than to release games like this. But that's one man's take. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are on Blood Bowl 3. If this was a game that you were interested in, if you are only finding out about it now, just steer clear from it. And to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.